Hey, conference report. Yeah, I can't say I really understand Wolfram's stuff either. I'm not sure really he's done understanding it, but he does understand it pretty well, and he's a particle physicist, and the idea that it would relate to the quantum mechanics and these explanations is totally fair. I can't, I don't, I, we're in an area where I really enjoy this as an exploration. Um, and I kind of want to be careful to not just keep coming back to you with you should believe in free will. You should believe in free will. To me, it's sort of more interesting that you, on one hand, have your position and I have my other, and there's a distance between us, and we can use our interest in what's between us to go ahead and kind of break it down and scan it down. We can understand. So, for example, because I do get the idea, and I think actually that we've got to Wolfram, and there's various people somewhat familiar with it. It's very interesting because see, when I uh, discovered, and discovery isn't even the right word because I was just a young teen when I started to get into all of the fractal and it's early in the morning, the automaton stuff. Um, so it's a very formative age. But to me, this the fact that the digits of pi are created by a very regular process, but that it has to be done over time, and it would take forever to get all the digits. To me, this is another vote for an indeterminate kind of situation because even if it is determined, in some sense, we are cut off from it. We can't know where we are in the series. And I have a sort of a relativist principle, right? Sort of, the light cone idea with Einstein. If something can't interact with you, either because it's so physically separate it couldn't get to you, you know, or it takes part of some physics that doesn't interact with you, then to me that's the same as it doesn't exist. See, I don't believe in any ontologically imperative existence. I believe our existence is defined through perception, which means through things that interact with us. If something can never interact with us, then it cannot exist. Now, if it could potentially interact for us, then it doesn't exist for us until we do interact, but it could potentially interact, and I'm willing just in shorthand to say, well, those things exist too. So like, I haven't been to the Congo, but I potentially could go. And of course, strictly speaking, the Congo does interact with me. I mean, there's air from the Congo that is recirculated, and there are actual physical connections. But, then take Mars. Okay, well, Mars, I've seen light from Mars. Okay, well, I've never seen light from uh, Pluto, but I've seen images of Pluto. But anyway, there's potential interaction. Okay, those things exist. So, but what I kind of would like to get into is just when I try to think of, like, what is the purpose? Why would we evolve an illusion of control? But then purpose is the wrong thing because purpose requires, will. So maybe it just happened, and we're supposed to just take it that it just happened that we think. I don't even understand how you could define the illusion of free will without some sort of freedom. And then also these things are limits. I mean, on the one hand, we prove how random and chance and just combinatorial the universe is. Great. And I have to prove that to try to show there's enough room in that combination for will. But the other thing is that once we have this totally statistical universe, we have to face the fact that if you were analyzing the behavior of a system, how you would detect it's alive or not has to do with it deviating from those random patterns. The little cell creature doesn't just randomly 1 over n times be over in the sugar. No, he seeks it out and spends all his time over there. So anyway, just to clarify, I don't want to come across like I understand this per se. We're exploring it, and really the purpose for me would be if we could dig into, like seriously, I just feel like there's other phenomena that look like they're willing a little bit. A flood coming down a hill or even just a river, it could be seen as making decisions, or if you're on a stick on the water, it looks sometimes like it stops and decides. I don't think it really decides, and I also don't think it has an illusion of free will, right? To appear like you're deciding something, you don't need a sense of free will, and if you can't really decide something, then there can be no purpose to having this or that feature. They all just happen. I don't understand an explanation. Where as an explanation that there's will, it makes sense because this will is making all of these little choices that add up. And then, because we do have an illusion of free will, right? In the sense that I don't think it's nearly, it's not atomic. It's not at all what people intuitively say that they imagine the will to be. So it is an illusion of free will. I can see the illusion of free will that we have coming from evolution. We have this conscious will that thinks it's the whole body. You cut your finger and you're like, I hurt myself, whether you felt it or not, just because you're bleeding because you see your body's damaged. I could see why a will, a false sense of will, like that would evolve. It's so that there's some central part of the body that's taking and coordinating all of the concerns of the whole system, or trying to. But I don't see why something that can have no will at all, there's no benefit to having that illusion, because the illusion can't have any power. And then the other thing is just, it's like, we know now that the sun, it has a proper motion, but relative to moving in the morning, it's not moving in the morning. The Earth is spinning. But the skeptics could have, or not, excuse me, the cynics could have come along and said, well, the sun doesn't move because motion is an illusion, and they had their little proof that motion is an illusion. That would have been a bad reason to say the sun doesn't move, because nothing moves. It's an illusion. Okay. The real reason is, well, we're spinning, and that's that proper motion looks like proper motion for the sun, because we're spinning. Okay. It's not because all movement is an illusion. Right? And I feel like this is kind of where we are right now. We have this argument that's a lot like a cynic's argument about how no will could be free. But I really want to know something that explains why it appears to move in the first place. That's kind of what in the will, why do we appear to have a free will? And this is important, and this is why I come back to we're all making these decisions. And I say, hey, let's have a cup of coffee and watch the sunrise. Okay, and I know it's not really rising, but I also know what it really is doing, that I could, if I was pedantic, speak to more accurately. Say, let's get up and have a cup of coffee while we spin out of the Earth's shadow into the sunlight. I mean, we could say that, and I don't have to because we know sort of the facts, but what could I say in will, What is really going on? And how can I make a decision of how to speak it? I can't. And I just don't see how that can't impact on certain kinds of accomplishments. And I find that interesting to explore, because my sense of you as a person is that you accomplish and you use your will and you've organized and mastered your will, but you don't seek to show us this book of tools and abilities about will, but rather to say that that's all an illusion. Or not to speak for you, whatever you're saying. But anyway, I mostly don't want to give the impression that it's like, you should believe in will and you are, because I believe some harsh sounding things that, it's like it's suicide not to really believe in your will. On the other hand, I'm not putting that on you guys, because the people I'm talking to, it looks like you do believe in will. But anyway, conference report, I like discussing it with you because you're taking a very solid stance that I can't and don't need to undermine from the start. Now, people that are saying the universe is absolutely determinism and classical physics, I can't have this discussion with them because that's just not true, and there's no evidence of that. We have this non-determinist physics that we can't just say, oh, we understand and it has to be this way. And yet there's a lot of room to still feel that way. And that's been your tack, that, okay, there's this non-determinist, we don't necessarily know what it is, I might even still think it's determinist, but rather than base it on my belief on an agreement there, we'll go into other areas that we can discuss. So I find that, the most potentially productive pathos of distance that we can exploit between our two positions. But anyway, cheers, and I think it's great, people. You brought up Wolfram. Somebody else sent me a link I had not seen of Wolfram speaking at UC. Was very interesting on top of the book to get an idea. So, cheers.